Have so many times before, broken hearts and slain doors. I'll be alright, yes I will once more. Just as I can, I'm gonna rise again. So bring it on. Everything new, everything different, everything true. I am ready for the next thing to do. Oh, I know it's gonna be everything new. Bring it on. Everything new, everything different, everything true. I am ready for the next thing to do. Oh, I know it's gonna be everything new. Well, I know it's gonna be everything new. There you go, Jeff.
All right. Well, bring it on, because we're ready to bring it on to you today. Let me tell you. I was here at 9, and it was worth getting up for. Let me tell you, more than worth getting up for. All right, good morning and welcome to everyone. And we want to welcome those people that are following us online. So everybody turn around and make a face, do something, welcome them all and say, we love you. Keep sending those cards and letters with checks in them to us. You know our address, so keep sending it. And we want, yeah, you can write a check to me too. I can take a check. All right. All right, let's get serious now. You know what we're about here? We're about transforming lives, inspiring people to make a positive difference in our world. And you know what? We do a damn good job of it. So that's what we're about. And we do that every week because that's the foundation principle for the Unity Spiritual Center. Transforming lives, inspiring people to make a positive difference in our world. That's why I'm here. That's why you're here. That's why we love coming here, because it's positive. That's what it's really about. It's about being positive. So.
Amen, brother.
Oh, whoa, I got an amen. How often do we hear an amen around here? Well, I don't know. If we're the Episcopal, we'd hear it about every half minute. But, okay. So this morning we're, all right, now don't make me laugh, you guys. We're on air. All right, here we go. This morning we're going to hear from Dr. Jane, who will be sharing the Sunday message entitled Boomeritis. You're in for it, let me tell you. And Dr. Gary will be leading the meditation. And we are being blessed today musically by the one and only combo here, Sean and Tani, right? And I also want to recognize Brian in the sound booth because he's part of this whole service too, and we appreciate you so much. So let's all stand if we're able and do our welcome song.
Yes, that's right. If you can stand, that'd be great. We're going to sing a little more Daniel, and we're going to do sing up. You are sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love is all that you are.
Good morning. My name's Dennis, and I just had a few announcements for you. And one of the earlier songs they were singing was, bring it on, everything new. I am ready for my next thing to do, so I have some options for you. First thing is Sisters in Spirit, and I love this title, The Garden Path as a Spiritual Path. So June 9th, 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, Frida Morgenstern is going to be the speaker. And also, after the talk on the garden path as a spiritual path, it's going to be followed by an hour for those who are interested just to be in the garden there at her house. So it's 119 West 22nd. Frida said that it's just 8 blocks from the church here, so pretty close. And she did ask if she could have an RSVP because she said her place holds roughly about 20 people, right, Frida? Yeah, so if you could get back to her with that email address, that would be great. Frida left me with this piece of information. She said it's going to be experiential with shared information and even a meditation, so pretty cool. So the second thing I'll mention is that we are moving to one service. So that begins June 17th, and that'll go on through September 9th. So make sure that you just sort of mentally adjust for that. And so that's going to start Father's Day, June 17th. And then the third thing I'll mention is we want to say thank you to Candy and Shirley and Kimberly for bringing treats. It's just quite a spread out there, so it's going to be pretty nice. And there's also a cake out there to honor Tara as she ends up heading up the spirit group. And then next week for treats, if you've ever owned a cat, if you have a cat now, or if you have a cat that wandered in and won't leave. Any of those options, we're asking you to bring treats next Sunday. And then the last thing I'll mention is that we're having Pride Week, which is coming up. It's an interfaith movement, so there's lots of churches involved. The theme this year is now more than ever. And I think that theme certainly makes sense because hate crimes are on the rise. It makes sense to just say, you know what? Everybody has the right to be exactly who they are. I think you've heard me say this before, as I've mentioned the Pride Week, but at one level, it's for gays and lesbians and bis and transgender. But at a deeper level, I think it's a demonstration that we all sincerely believe that everybody has the right to be authentically who they are without fear of some repercussions. So the details, the service, which is an interfaith service, is Tuesday, June 5th at 7 o'clock, so that's coming up in a couple of days. But I went down there and scattered it out. Parking in that particular spot is terrible. So I mean, arrive early because you're going to have to search for a parking spot. So my suggestion is get there about 6:30, and the service will start at 7. It's 104 West 3rd, and everybody I've talked to said, boy, my mind just draws a blank. I can't even think of what's there. Across the street is the Atrium or Atrium building, and then that particular building says community-minded building. It also says SEC Fitness, and it has a big Channel 14 on it too. And then the Pride Parade will be next Saturday. We're asking everybody who's going to march to meet at the intersection of Spokane Falls Boulevard and Stevens. We're going to try and meet at 11:15. The parade itself starts at 12, and have a ball. I mean, wear costumes. Everybody has a great time. It's just a lot of fun. The people on the sidewalks watching you, they have a good piece of fun too. 95% of them do, and the other 5% nobody cares about. So have fun. So what I'm going to do in just a moment is I'm going to hand out some sign-up sheets, and that'll be going on as we have the next 2 announcements. So let me invite Donna up.
Good morning. David sends his aloha from Sandpoint. He's speaking up there this morning. Yeah, it's a tough job. Every one of us goes through a significant turning point in our life, our journey through life. These are life-altering passages that close old doors and open new doors. Some of these events we go through by ourselves, but it's always better to have support as we go through changing times and growing times. Next Sunday, the 10th of June, at both services, we still have both services, 9 and 11, David and I are honored to be conducting the services. We're calling it the Rites of Passage. Along with the talk, the meditation, and some wonderful music that's planned, including the choir, we'll be conducting the Rites of Passage ceremonies. That is to honor any significant event in your life, whether it's an engagement, a renewal of vows, a divorce, whatever works for you, a christening, a graduation, a new business, isn't that right? And retiring. So anything you come up with that you want to honor and have support on, we invite you to sign up at the desk right by the chapel outside in the atrium. If you want to sign up there, we're going to be giving you a certificate for this event. And so we need to know what you want to do and your name and email address. So be sure and sign up at the desk by the chapel, and we look forward to seeing all of you next Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. And then let me invite Tara Weir up.
Good morning. I'm Tara Weir, and I am the Spirit Group's program leader. Today is the last day I get to say that. Today is my last day, and it's also the last day of our spring series. So our groups that have been meeting, this is somewhat of a culmination of days, and we're going to celebrate it with cake. So after the service, if you would join us in the fellowship hall. There's nothing formal set. It's just planned for just an ending of the time. And I definitely have a bring it on, everything's new situation starting today.
So we had the opportunity of announcing a couple months ago that Tara was moving into a different opportunity, and so we expressed our regrets as well as our best wishes to her. But because this is her last day and we have cake, we're really just wanting to go the extra step of really just acknowledging Tara's gift and the legacy that she's created over these last couple of years, being the program leader of this integral program that is essential to evolution. And so it's such a gift that you've given us, and we hope to carry on this legacy, even though that she's stepping down, Spirit Groups is moving forward, it's going to be a part of our DNA, and we just wanted to thank you for getting us started in this important work.
My joy.
Such a
My
gift to us.
And I just want to add that we couldn't have asked for a more perfect person to get this ball rolling. Tara's organizational skills, her commitment, her vision for the whole program really has brought it to where it is today. And so I really want to honor that, Tara, and thank you for everything you've done, and wish you so well as you move into whatever's next for you. But you will be missed. I need you to know that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Likewise.
And as part of that honoring, I just want to say the famous words, let them eat cake. Yeah. So make sure you get a piece of cake.
Okay, so this is Center Update with Dr. Gary, an opportunity for me to share a bit about what happens behind the scenes, things that aren't necessarily apparent via our community announcements. And so just a couple of things. First of all, Jane and I are going to Unity Village. We leave Tuesday morning. We're on our road trip to Unity Village. We have our annual Unity People's Convention held there in Overland Park, Kansas. And so we're going to be gone a couple of weeks, and we are thankful that David and Dennis are going to be, and Donna are going to be maintaining the high watch for us, and so make sure you come, because we'll be watching, and so I just want you to know that we'll be watching.
Take names.
Send a check in while you're back there.
That's right. Well, we're on the Tideway by the way.
Yeah.
So in your program today, you're in charge, so set up your automatic giving that way. So I noticed on Facebook today that this is also Cancer Survivor Day. Did you know that?
It is. I did.
And that this is the 2-year anniversary of my remission from. Thank God we live in Washington State, where the options are real. All right. So we do want to take this opportunity to welcome and receive officially some of our new community members. And so as I call your name, please come up so you can receive your certificate and your blessing. Carolyn Coleman, Dr. Lisa Zuper. Let's see, Amber
She's here.
Mackenzie, and Jenny Arney, she's here. Chris Porter. Chris is not here. Okay, and then we have a couple others, Ann and Kevin Flanagan, but they're not here. Okay, and so let's go ahead and.
Thank you. And Lisa. Okay.
All right, wait a minute. I'm going to get some of this action here too.
His action. That's right. Yes.
All right.
Sorry. Oh, his back. Oh no. He said.
Nice view. I hope you all got that.
So let's take a moment and honor our newest community members. We want to welcome you and know that you are loved, and you just bless us with your presence. And thank you for joining in with our community. And so let's take a moment. Do you want to say something?
No, that's right. You can say.
Let's take a moment and bless our new members as we say, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the God self that you are. Okay, together, community members, we love you, we bless you, We appreciate you, and we behold the God self that you are. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Let's get ready for meditation.
Indeed.
So before we sing this today, I thought, I didn't know that about the cancer survivor thing, but I thought I'd share something interesting with you all. So I'm a cancer survivor.
Yes.
And you hear people say that, you know somebody or there's somebody in your family, the neighborhood. And I thought I'd share that with you, right? How many of you people stand up if you would are cancer survivors in this church?
Wow. Wow. Awesome.
It's surprising thing, isn't it?
Wow.
You don't realize the number of them.
Thanks for doing that, Sean.
So, if you're a cancer survivor, what a great song this is.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
So let's begin our meditation with focusing our awareness at the very center of our chest. Just begin to allow the sensation of the breath, the rise and fall of the abdomen, to settle us into this moment. Opening our hearts and bringing into our awareness the wondrous ways in which we are blessed, we're gifted. And so as we bring into our awareness someone or something that fills us with gratitude, appreciation, we open our hearts, thankful, present, knowing that in this moment we join in together, creating an energetic field of heart-centered coherence. And so we allow these feelings to fill this space, our center, so that each of us here in this room, each of us can feel and also contribute to the depth of love and care that lives here as a part of what we're creating together, that envelops each one of us, that holds each one of us, that carries each one of us. that abides in each one of us. So we allow this awareness of this field, of this presence, of this energy, this awareness of God's love that surrounds us, that is the foundation of who we are, that is our life. We open to this presence in this moment, in silence. So blessed. So blessed. So blessed.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so
Song. Am I on? Yes, there I am. Good morning.
Good morning.
I recently learned a psychological term that I had never come across before, and that word is transnarrative cognition. Isn't that a great word? What a great And what it means, as you might guess, it refers to the phenomenon of having our understanding go beyond the story, go beyond the narrative that we previously may have believed. It signifies the aha experience, the moment when the tumblers all line up, and we get it. The light of understanding turns on. And that at that point, you transcend the story and you clearly see things from another perspective. Well, I had a moment of transnarrative cognition recently that I want to share with you this morning. It revolved around the publicity that Facebook has received lately about the sharing of personal information. You know what I'm talking about here? Yes. And during Mark Zuckerberg's testimony, I was suddenly struck by what a profound metaphor social media algorithms represent for how the cosmic mirror works, how life reflects back to us what's inside of us, right? When I research something online to purchase, and then lo and behold, I find that very item showing up and vying for my attention in my Facebook feed. Anybody? I get extremely irritated. And I start spouting off about Big Brother watching. I check my microwave for hidden cameras. I'll complain to anyone within earshot about how my privacy is being invaded yet again for the almighty dollar. But the aha that I received around that was that I was actually being shown exactly where I was putting my attention. You see that? And what I was interested in. And that's what life does. And I get equally irritated when life does it. Especially when the world mirrors what I'm putting out there and it's reflecting a state of consciousness that is, let's say, less than desirable. As Eckhart Tolle reminds us when he says, remember that your perception of the world is a reflection of your state of consciousness. That's very profound. And it's really important for us to keep that in mind. My perception of the world is a reflection of my state of consciousness. You know, if a vegan animal rights activist and an avid NRA card-carrying hunter both Googled the subject gun rights, do you think they would get the same results from their search? Not at all. If two people on either extreme of the political spectrum were to Google a politician's name, they would also get very different results. And both would receive information that they most resonate with. That's the purpose of the algorithm, to reflect back to you what you're wanting to see. It's called being in a social media bubble. And we can live in an echo chamber where we only hear what we agree with. This is the danger of that. And nowhere do we see this bubble immersion demonstrated more clearly than in people sharing the same cultural values inherent in the dominant social paradigm that they are centered in, and especially in the one that we're going to talk about today. We are continuing in the Evolution Revolution series as we move up another rung and examine the next paradigm shift, and I hope that as we go through this series, this exploration we've been on, that you've been having some transnarrative cognition moments along the way. My talk title is a term coined by modern-day philosopher Ken Wilber called Boomeritis. More on what that means later, but a spoiler alert. Any boomers here? Yeah, you probably have it, yes. Probably going to find some of these symptoms are in your life. So far in our series, using the system and the colors of spiral dynamics, we have been looking at the various shared values and worldviews that have occurred throughout history and compared those with our own individual development. And as we're growing and learning, when our center of gravity is occupying these various worldviews, we see the world through that unique perspective. My perception of the world is a reflection of my state of consciousness. And we began with the beige prehistoric era where survival was the only game in town. And we related that to infancy, where our very survival rests with our caregivers. Then the magical and ritualistic purple tribal age that followed that is linked to our toddlerhood years. The years of magical thinking. You know, I cover my eyes and nobody can see me. It's also a time in toddlerhood where you're finding your tribe. You're finding your place in the family. Red feudalism and personal power, it's the Wild West consciousness, connects us to our individual ego development. And if you've ever been in a power struggle with a 3-year-old, you have experienced red energy firsthand. The blue rule of law period that follows the mayhem of red correlates with our school age years as we learn to corral that ego. We learn to don the mask of social acceptability and conform to the societal rules. And last time, we looked at the orange, rational, mechanistic, scientific, corporate worldview that began around 300 years ago with the Industrial Revolution. And developmentally, we're talking about the adolescent years when critical thinking starts to emerge. We start to question some of those blue rules that we have grown up believing. Today, we're moving on to the final worldview in what is known as first-tier consciousness, green, that showed up around 150 years ago. And when I say final, that does not mean it's the end of our evolutionary journey by any stretch of the imagination. But this worldview is a pivotal stage of our development. It can lead to a significant paradigm shift, both individually and culturally. And as you look at this slide, what do you notice about the time frame of each of these paradigm shifts? It's getting shorter, exponentially shorter. And that's good news for us. It's an exciting time to be alive. Really, as we see what's on the horizon for us and how we can help to usher it in. That's the big question. Now, in our individual development, beige says, I will survive. It's the survival instinct that we have. Purple says, I belong. I'm part of my tribe. Red declares, I matter. It's about our personal power. Blue says, I do the right thing. I follow the rules. Orange said, forget the rules. I strive. I can change. And green says, I care. I care. Egalitarian green rises up as an adaptive response to orange's mechanistic ladder of success worldview. Green says, okay, I have all the toys, but is that all there is? Where blue believes authority is right, orange says, well, what works or doesn't work dictates the rules. Green says, there's more to life than material success. And in our individual development, our attention shifts from the ambitious striving for success of orange to an interior exploration, searching for meaning. That's what comes forth in green. Green is very aware of social inequality, the perils of consumerism. It's all about human rights, equality, honoring of diversity, being socially responsible, care of the environment, breaking free from conventional roles. It's about interpersonal relationship, acceptance, connection, consensus. Green definitely has a 60s feel to it. A few years back, Gary and I went to see Paul McCartney in concert in Kansas City, and we shared the venue with thousands of people from our generation. It was a very, very green crowd in there. And he sang all of our favorites, and he honored each of the other Beatles in some way. He had pictures and video going in the background. It was just fabulous. And when he sang Hey Jude, he invited all of us to sing along with the na-na-na-na part, and that stadium came to life. And when we all sang it together, tears were streaming down faces. I was one of them. As thousands of us joined together in what felt like an anthem from our youth. You see? It had meaning to us, significance, because we all shared that magical era in our younger years. And that sense of coherence and community, cooperation, these are the gifts of green. Relationship is valued over outcomes. There's a sensitivity to feelings, empathy, all about human potential, focused on spiritual development. Sound familiar to anyone? A huge proportion of people involved in New Thought are centered in green. Our movement, our unity movement, is very, very green. And while orange is top-down management, green is bottom-up with the idea of the servant leader. Let's get everybody's point of view. There's definitely a discomfort with hierarchy in green of any kind. Everybody has a voice. Sounds great, doesn't it? Yeah. There's only one problem. Although it's very idealistic, it doesn't work so well in practice. Green is powerful as a paradigm for breaking down old structures, not so good at formulating practical alternatives. We're so busy processing, we never get anything done. And we run into problems with this kind of organizational structure. And what can arise are things like triangulation. Person A goes to person B to talk about person C instead of directly. That's one thing that can show up in unhealthy green. There's a lot of fear around rejection and disapproval. So there's a lack of holding people accountable. We don't want anybody's feathers ruffled. We don't want to exclude anybody. We're politically correct to a fault. There's a high tolerance for dysfunction because we just want everybody to be happy and feel affirmed. And unfortunately, all that affirmation can lead to narcissism. These unhealthy aspects of green are called Boomeritis. And the biggest problem is the belief that the green worldview is the best one. But it is the best one, right? Anybody can see how great green is. And that belief is the biggest deterrent to transformation, I'm here to tell you. And I hate that. But when there's attachment to any one viewpoint, it puts the brakes very effectively on any kind of emergence of a new way of being. Just what happens. My perception of the world is a reflection of my state of consciousness. Now, green and orange have a sort of a mutual contempt, almost an allergy to each other. Orange looks at green like, you bleeding heart snowflake. And green looks at orange like corporate corruption, you're destroying the earth. I'm here to tell you we need both. We need cufflinks and peace signs. Without orange, green dies on the vine. Without green, orange lacks heart. So they both have their merit. There's a story I heard that demonstrates to me what a good mix of healthy green and orange might look like. There was a man who applied for a job at a place that needed people who not only had critical thinking and problem-solving skills, but also compassionate heart. And so one of the questions on the application was a bit of an ethical dilemma for them to solve. And it went like this. There's a severe blizzard shutting down the city. You're slowly navigating your way home from work in your two-seater sports car. And through the blinding snow, as you come to the bus stop, you see three people. A friend who recently saved your mother's life with the Heimlich maneuver. An elderly woman obviously in need of immediate medical help. And the man/woman of your dreams. You can only pick up one person. Who will it be? Well, the young man who got the job answered it this way. I would pull over, give my friend the car keys, and ask him to drive the woman to the hospital, and I would wait for the bus in the storm with the woman of my dreams. Good answer. Now that's using brain and heart, and that's what orange and green can look like when they work together. See? And a reminder, there's nothing better or worse about any of these worldviews. Just as an adolescent is not better than a toddler, an adolescent can do more. But neither one is wrong or bad where they are in their development. In fact, we all wear all of these worldview glasses. Do you recognize yourself throughout the spiral? Because as we move through the various developmental stages of our lives, we transcend and include the previous one, so we can find a little bit of each of these within. We may be centered in blue in our home life, orange in our work life, green in our spiritual community. And here's the thing, if we find that we have an aversion or an allergy to an element of an earlier worldview, it means we have not completely integrated it or included it yet. And this shows up as disowning parts of ourselves, otherwise known as the shadow. If, on the other hand, we have an addiction to any element from an earlier one, we haven't yet transcended it or successfully differentiated from that element, and it shows up as an inability to disidentify exclusively with a former self. So imagine if we never let go of being a toddler, if we still identified as a toddler. Can you see how that might get in the way of us moving forward in our evolutionary process? So whether there's an allergy or an addiction to something unresolved in our past, we need to do the healing work with that arrested development before we can make the leap to a new paradigm of consciousness. We have to clean up those pain points from our past, and we do that through the Q process. We do. We absolutely do. This is good information for us to have as we look at what our individual work may be in order to help midwife a new paradigm of consciousness, conscious cultural evolution into being. That's our work. That's the work that awaits us. So let's take a look at what that work might look like. I'd like to invite members of the Shadow Box Readers Theater Group to come forward and give us an inside look.
Shadowbox Theater, a place where we meet up with our projections whenever we judge someone else. It's highly annoying. This morning, we are tuning into our friend, Peaceful Pam, who was about to come face to face with a major projection. She is joined by some close companions, Judging Mind and Forgiving Heart, as they get ready to watch their favorite television news program together.
I think I'll turn on the news. I haven't watched it for a few days.
Are you sure you want to know what's going on out there? I bet it won't be good news. It never is these days.
I think it's safe to watch. After all, I need to keep informed.
Tonight's top news story. Perry politician today just signed a bill into law to begin fracking in the local wildlife preserve.
Suddenly, Peaceful Pam was no longer peaceful.
What? This is outrageous. He's selling out. He doesn't care about animals or the environment. He's just greedy and lining his own pockets.
Becoming more and more upset, Peaceful Pam suddenly became aware that she was being triggered and was able to pause. Judging Mind had something to say about it.
So, you do know that when something or someone triggers you, it means they are mirroring parts of yourself that you don't want to look at, right? So, when have you sold out in some way in your life without caring about the consequences to others?
Me? I'd never do that. Well, except there was that time. Oh, and then that other time. Yeah, I can find it. In fact, I can find a lot of examples from my younger days.
Well, this isn't helpful. Yes, it's important to realize that we project our stuff onto other people, and to see that what we are triggered by in another is connected to what we are hiding from within ourselves. But that doesn't mean we beat ourselves up about it. Guilt, shame, and self-condemnation will not help with the healing.
So what do I do?
Go ahead and find it within yourself, yes. And then, with tenderness, forgive it. Self-forgiveness is the answer.
Peaceful Pam understood that what triggers you in another's behavior is really a reflection of what is hiding within. But somehow, she had previously missed the crucial part about self-forgiveness being an important piece of the healing equation.
Take a moment, focus on your heart, and begin to feel empathy and compassion for your younger self. You were doing the best you could with the resources you had. All of that misguided behavior was completely driven by a need to feel worthy. Remember?
Oh my God. All the times I acted that way, I was really struggling to overcome a belief that I was unworthy. I was just trying to find happiness. I was on an impossible quest to find something outside of myself that can only be found from within.
Suddenly, Peaceful Pam's heart opened, and judgment melted into complete, loving compassion towards her younger self. The guilt and shame shifted to self-forgiveness, deep compassion, tender gratitude, and powerful healing.
That politician is just doing the same thing I was. He was just trying to find happiness, and he thinks that more money or power will do it. It won't. He's just as doomed as I was to find what he's looking for outside of himself. I feel total compassion for the both of us.
A town hall meeting has been called at his constituent office this Tuesday night. And that's it for tonight's news. Stay tuned for an update from our weatherman, Climate Change Chuck.
Wait. Now, does that mean you're going to just let him get away with what he's doing?
Hell no. He doesn't excuse his behavior. I'm calling his office first thing in the morning, and I'm signing an online petition tonight. I'll be at that town hall meeting next Tuesday, and I'm going to march for the environment next week. But I will take all of those actions with kindness and compassion, after making my own amends when I can, for all those times I remember having the very same behavior, then it will be free of any self-condemnation toward my own past history.
Peaceful Pam took all of those actions, and she was a picture of compassion, peace, clarity, and power.
And that is not fake news.
Thank you, Shadowbox Theater Group. And just to clarify, this was a dramatized reenactment of something that really did happen to me. Now, it was a local politician doing the selling out, by the way, no one you would recognize. But the end result is very similar to what you just saw. I had a trans-narrative cognition moment. I saw clearly the depth of my projection. And that's how the transcending part works. You see something you didn't see before. You widen your perspective to a larger view. You take the red pill. But the work doesn't end there. Our minds are very clever and adept at rationalizing, making up stories, blaming. And when we catch ourselves doing that, it can be very easy to now shift the blame and send it inside of ourselves, just like it did with me. So it takes the deeper intelligence of the heart to move into compassion for ourselves and for anyone else that we may be judging. This experience was monumental for me. I was startled into awareness, and the self-forgiveness was pivotal for the healing to happen. It's really a form of Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian practice of seeing it out there, forgiving it in here. And this is our work. See it out there, forgive it in here. Take every triggering moment that shows up and utilize it to gain a larger perspective. Do you see that's the work? Now, this doesn't mean that every single corrupt action that you witness in another is reflecting who you are or is directly linked to your own personal history, unless it triggers you beyond what is an appropriate response. That's the clue. Concern, dismay, caring, a desire to have your voice be heard and to take action of some kind, very appropriate. Being suddenly airborne like I was, stomping around the living room, yelling at the TV screen, pay attention. Pay attention. There's something there to look at. Not only that, but there's a gem waiting to be unearthed in moments like that, when they happen. And the greatest treasure of all is that we stop shadowboxing with ourselves. We clear the path of self-discovery. My perception of the world is a reflection of my state of consciousness. Now, to be clear, I'm not talking about traumatic, abusive relationships and situations here. An appropriate response to abuse is no, and I'm getting help to be safe. So please don't hear that I'm suggesting anyone stay in an abusive relationship and let those triggering moments do their stuff and just continue to let that abuse happen. What I'm talking about are the paper cuts in life, because they hold the potential for an incredible depth of healing. And if you are being highly triggered by something, that's the clue. Take a closer look. With compassion, with self-forgiveness, use the cue process to help integrate and differentiate. Get ready for a moment of transnarrative cognition. And then, as Rumi says, keep knocking and the joy inside will eventually open a window, and look out to see who's there. Because that's what's waiting for us. That's what's waiting for us in this work. Beyond the story is joy, is the reality of who we are, is the true self. And as we're doing this work, here's an important thing for us to keep in mind. Throughout history, each of these paradigm shifts were revolutionary. They were cutting edge in their time. It was a result of the creative evolutionary impulse bringing forth something new. And so we want to be grateful for each and every one, just as in our own developmental process, we want to be grateful for each and every stage. Because the sufferings and the inadequacies for each one of these eras contained the fuel, provided the fuel for transcendence into something new. Do you see that? So in the past, these shifts came about as an adaptive measure toward the issues and problems that were happening in the current culture. But it was not done consciously. See? These ladies had no clue that these folks were on the horizon. The 60s were a great time to be young, not so great to be parents of the young. Clash of worldviews there. So the paradigm shifts that come forth in first tier are more adaptive and reactive. But second tier, where we're on the horizon here, conscious, deliberate, awake, aware. Do you see it? All that we're talking about in first tier is relative development leading to transnarrative cognition as we shed the blockages to awakening to the true self, to who we already are. And I believe that the shift from first tier to second tier consciousness is on the horizon. Yeah. It truly is. In fact, according to the research, the seeds have already been sown. We'll talk about that next time. And we can choose to be willing and conscious participants in both our own individual development as well as the emergence of a new cultural paradigm. Are you up for that? Yes. Stay tuned for more on how we can make that happen as we continue our paradigm climb, and next time we move to second tier. Yeah. Woo!
Thank you. Unity stands for peace in the presence of conflict, for love in the presence of hatred, for forgiveness in the presence of injury. Unity honors the many names for God, the many paths for God, for we know that there is only one power, one presence, one life. So whoever you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey of transformation, you are definitely welcomed here. We would especially like to welcome anyone who might be visiting us for the first time. If this is your first time visiting with us and you feel comfortable raising your hand, our ushers have a packet for you. On the outside of the packet, there is a form you can fill out to be added to our mailing list for our weekly e-news update and quarterly newsletter. So if you're here for the first time and you feel comfortable, please raise your hand so that we can give you this. It also gets you a free drink at our barista stand. This is gold, folks. This is currency. You can also take it. You can take it to the bookstore and get a CD of today's marvelous service. And wherever you are and whoever you are, we are really, really glad you're here today. And we hope that you will continue to come back. Now it's time to welcome and greet each other. So we will stand and sing our
we're going to sing a song, God You Are. We're just going to do the first verse, and then we all can give each other a hug.
Give each other a hug.
You are.
Dennis, thank you. That was really good. Good morning. How are you? Good to see ya. Hi. How are you? Good. I'm good. Oh, thank you. Valuable. Hey. How are ya?
Fabulous. Oh my God, just got back.
I want to hear all about it.
Wow.
Thank you. Hi, how are you, Amanda? Good. Hi. Oh, glad you're here. How you doing, Steve? Oh, thank you. Hi, how are you? Hello. Good. Oh. Thank you, Louie. You feeling better? I'm glad. I'm so glad. Oh, good, good, good. Wow. Well, you better behave then. Hello. Hey, Jen.
My mom and I went over there. I never experienced anything like that before.
Yes. Oh, yeah, yeah. We're excited, yeah. Everything I know is you. Everything I see, everything I do. Hey, Al. How are you?
Okay.
Hi. Everything I know is you. That's it. Hi. How are you? Oh, great. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. I do actually.
All right, thank you.
I would love to. Yes. Everything you know.
All right, let's go.
Give him the mic. Give him the mic, please. Well, there's people that, yeah.
I know that people online are trying to celebrate abundance together as we share our tithes and love offering. I invite you to hold your offering in your hand and in your heart as we say together our love offering blessing. Together, I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give and receive. I give thanks for the abundance that is mine to share.
Oh, we have a great fun song for you here this morning that you'll recognize, but I'll bet you won't know who sang it. And if you were here at the first service, you can't play. And Scott, you can't play. And but if you know the artist today to this song, I'll buy you a cup of coffee. So just shout it out at the end of the song. I'll buy you a cup of coffee if you know the artist to this song.
Should we have a dance contest?
There you go.
There's a reason for the sun in the sky. There's a reason why I'm feeling so high this season. When that love light shines all around us. So that feeling right from deep inside. So you feel where you're looking high and you're no stealing. To the moonlit nights with your love on. Just let your love go. Like another stream, let your love go. With the stars, the dreams, and let your love show. And you know what I mean in this season. Let your love rise, like a burning wind, let your love rise. You are everything to let your love shine. And you know what I mean, there's a reason. There's a reason reason for those who night to every reason for the candlelight was the season when those that light shine all around you. So let that wonder take you into space and where you wonder it's loving and grace just be wonder as it holds your face and you can hold it. Just let your love go like a mountain stream, let your love go. So all the dreams and let your love show. And you know what I mean when it's the season. We're letting love go. You are everything to let your shine. And you know what I mean, that's the reason. We're letting love fly. Not just sing and let your love go. Take the smallest of dreams and let your love shine. And you know what I mean, that's the season. Wherever you are, focus on you. Hey, did you use Google? You know if you did, that song would be following you around.
Thank you. We give thanks for these gifts and for those who have given them as we send them forth to bless our world. And as we're giving thanks for the gifts we are receiving here at Unity Spiritual Center, we want to take time to thank all those in service to our community. This is a big one today, so I really want people to pay attention to this. Today we are honoring all of the mentors, all of the supporters of our youth program in the youth educational wing. You know, I've always believed since I started in this church that the foundation of building a church is families with children. I always have felt that. As you know, I'm a retired educator, and I think it's really, really important. And it thrills me to see these kids up here. But who we're honoring today, not only the children, and we're going to bless you at your regular time, but who we're honoring today are all those supporters and all those people, those mentors that have, through the years, helped and fostered and helped educate these kids and bring them up. So I'm asking everyone, whether it was this year or last year or 15 years ago, I want you to stand if you had any part in mentoring and helping in our Christian education program. So please stand right now and take a bow and keep standing. Thank you. Thank you all. This is where it begins as far as I'm concerned. Our chaplains today. Our chaplains today. Ooh, I know this lady. I also know this lady. Not biblically or anything. I know. All right. So Diane and Murphy, I call her Marlene, but most people call her Murphy. They're here to pray with you. If you have something heavy on your heart, if you have a joy you want to share, these two women, let me tell you, these two women will hold your whatever thought you have in prayer silently. They will pray with you. And I tell you, come and see them. They'll be up here in front. Thank you. We love your support. All right. You can also fill out a prayer request that's in the seat pocket in front of you. If you have a prayer request, fill it out, put it in the prayer boxes. There's one here, one in the atrium. We'll pray on it for 7 days here at our prayer center, and we'll send it on to Silent Unity, and they will pray on it for 30 days. There's also a hospital visitation form, and if you know somebody that requests a visitation, either a home visitation or a hospital visitation, and they're unable to be here, our chaplains would like to meet their needs. So please fill that out, and all of those things can go in either the prayer box or hand them to a staff member or whatever. At this time, we are going to bless the children. Wait, Jackie has something. Oh, I forgot. Well, we'll do birthday after.
Ask staff to stay here after and give them a picture.
The youth staff, current youth staff.
Yes.
Current youth staff, please stay for a picture afterwards, okay? All right. So, let's bless these children, and I hope the blessing's up on... Oh, birthday, June. Today's the first Sunday in June. If you have a birthday in June and you're able to stand, get up and stand up. We're going to sing some love your way. Here we go. Happy birthday, we love you. Happy birthday, and may all your dreams come true. When you blow out the candles, one by six aglow, it's the love light in your eyes wherever you go. So, let's give our blessing. I don't know. It's not written down. Here we go. Thank you. Here we go. Be the love you are. Sing the song you hear. Share the joy of life with people far and near. For ourselves. Be the love we are. Sing the song we hear. Share our joy of life with people far and near. All right, find the important people you came with today. And we're going to stand, if you are able, and we are going to join together for our closing prayer and our peace song.
We know it by heart.
All right, here we go. We know it by heart. Here we go.
The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And that's the truth. Get ready to launch into second tier, and so it is.